nonprofits, we work for nothing. Give me some energy. Woo-woo! Well, I'm the founder of Don't Miss Out. It's actually a nonprofit dedicated to trauma recovery, emotional health, and suicide prevention. And how I got involved in that is actually I've been suffering from suicidal depression from the age of 14. And I am a multiple time attempted suicide survivor and someone that actually successfully committed suicide. Well, you processing that, right?
Yeah, they're looking at you like,
I
what?
did successfully commit suicide. That doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna explain. I actually want to read a poem from my book. It's called I'm Not Okay. Excuse me, I'm not okay. I may be smiling, but I'm having a really bad day. Believe it or not, it's also been a bad night. In fact, it's been a bad life, and I'm losing my fight. I'm losing my drive, my press, and my desire to live. I'm losing the will to keep going if something doesn't give. I need a hug, I need a break, I need a breakthrough. If I break down, I need to know it's all right with you. I know you prefer the version of me that keeps it all together and holds everyone up. But if I'm being honest, it's a burden to me, because ain't no one strong forever, and I can't pour from an empty cup. So I'm sorry if you can't handle it, but this is my confession. Most days I'm not okay. Pretending otherwise is my transgression. Yeah. I know so many of you can relate to that, and when I was thinking about what I was gonna say, and thank you so much, Sugar, for inviting me. Thank you, Zamir, for having me here today. And of course, we honor the late, great Anthony Bourdain. I actually mentioned him in my book. But when I was thinking about being here today, I was like, what can I say? Because there's so much information out there about suicide prevention, and we're in an age of dissemination, so there's a lot of information about awareness and intervention, and I'm so grateful. And I thought about what is missing, what's missing. And I feel like what's missing is understanding the mechanics behind the mindset of suicide. Why do people get suicidal? Why would somebody want to end their lives, right? Because 45,000 people in the US commit suicide every year, 45,000 plus. And so what brings people to that point where they don't want to live anymore? What's the mindset behind that? And I feel like that part is missing because I'm one of those people that went under the radar. When we think suicidal depression, we're thinking about somebody who's sad, who's mopey, who's unaccomplished. We don't think about the powerful people, the happy people, the accomplished people. And that's why I wrote the poem, I'm Not Okay. But I was one of those people. I'm an award-winning radio host. I'm an author. I'm a mother of 7 beautiful children. None of them are crazy or on drugs. And so, I have every reason to be happy and to want to live, and yet I kept wanting to die. And what people don't understand about suicidal depression, it's not an emotion and it's not an isolated act of self-harm. Suicidal depression is a nature, it's a mindset, and it's a lifestyle. And if I can leave you with anything today, I really want you to remember that. It's a nature, it's a mindset, and it's a lifestyle. Because when we get to the point of intervention, somebody is usually so far gone in that depression, it can be hard to pull them back. You may be able to talk them down off of the bridge, so to speak, or get the knife out of their hand, but are you dealing with the underlying cause of what got them to that point? How do we keep people from getting to the point of wanting to die to begin with? And so the suicidal nature is a fundamental core belief that you don't deserve to live, that you don't have worth, you don't have value. And that usually starts in childhood. That is usually a result of unresolved trauma. And it's usually childhood trauma. And so it is seated so deep in the subconscious that you're not aware that you don't feel valuable, that you don't feel worthy. And so why people fall under the radar is because sometimes that shows up as depression and complacency and having no drive. But another way that shows up is in people that are really over enthusiastic and they're overachievers and they're always trying to do the next thing. And that's because they are desperately searching for validation because they don't feel like they deserve to live. They don't have worth. They don't have value. That is the suicidal nature, and it leads leads to a suicidal mindset, because if you feel like you don't deserve to live, then the mentality is it doesn't matter how I live. If I don't deserve to be here, then your mindset is going to match your nature, right? So if you don't deserve to be here, your mindset is it really doesn't matter how I live because I don't deserve life. And that leads to what I call the suicidal lifestyle, which is a self-sabotaging way to live. And that can be drug addiction, sex addiction. It can be toxic relationship patterns. You know, that shows up a lot of different ways. But suicidal depression is a nature, it's a mindset, and it's a lifestyle. It's not an emotion, it's not a mood, it's not an isolated act of self-harm. And so what ends up happening is a lot of times it is hidden depression, and it shows up in laughter, in achievement, in awards, in opening businesses. I attempted suicide 7 times, probably more. I mean, I've been suicidal since I was 14. I'm not anymore. But when the attempts came, they were so sudden. It was never premeditated because I was always an achiever. I was a straight A student. I was always winning awards. I'm an artist. Like, I always had something going on. And I would simply run out of energy, desperately trying to prove that I deserved to be here. And I would run out of energy and simply collapse. And in a moment, in an instant, I'd just be like, I'm done. I'm done. And so every time I attempted suicide, it was really spontaneous. It wasn't premeditated. I wasn't planning. It was just like a moment of sheer exhaustion. I'm out of here. And so when people commit suicide and the commentary afterward is like, I didn't even know. I could never tell. That's why. There is no accomplishment, no award, no amount of money, no relationship, no book, no traveling. There's nothing that is going to fix that core emptiness of feeling like you don't belong here, except addressing that core emptiness. There is nothing external that you can add to your life that is ever going to give you value. If that value doesn't live in you intrinsically, nothing external will ever give it to you. And so coping with that becomes exhausting. And that's why you have people that are older committing suicide. So the greatest suicide rates are actually in older Americans, like between 40 and 60. And they just run out of energy. They run out of the energy to keep trying to prove that they're okay. So I want you to think about the suicidal nature going forward, not just as depression, but a nature, a mindset, and a lifestyle. And what can you do to overcome that nature? You have to heal from trauma. And there are so many things that can traumatize you, and people don't realize that they're dealing with trauma because we tend to think of trauma as some tragic childhood, sickness, fire, rape. It can be all of those things, but trauma is not something that happens to you. It's something that happens in you, okay? Let me say that again. Trauma is not something that happens to you. It's something that happens in you. And trauma is about how your nervous system responds to an event. So you can have two people in the same near fatal car accident. One of them walks away, brushes themselves off, go gets a drink, and like, wow, that was crazy. And the other one has PTSD for the rest of their lives and can't get back in the car. One of them was traumatized and the other wasn't. What's the difference? It wasn't the event, right? Trauma is not what happens to you, it's how your nervous system responds to it. So the person that develops PTSD has a fragile nervous system. They don't know how to self-regulate, and that usually stems from unresolved childhood trauma. And so if you begin to pay attention to how you respond to things, if you're a person dealing with anxiety and insomnia, if you're stressed out all the time, if you're on a cocktail of anxiety medications and depression medications, that is that core emptiness that I'm talking about. And I'm not against medication, but I'm telling you, no medication is going to make you feel valuable or worthy. No job is going to give that to you. No man, no woman, no pursuit, no accomplishment. You have to deal with that inner trauma, that childhood trauma. You have to heal your nervous system, okay? So that's a big conversation that I can't get into right now. But you're not going to overcome suicidal depression if you don't heal that intrinsic emptiness and that void. And so I told you earlier, I didn't forget my opening statement. I successfully committed suicide, right? I said, right? So you want to know what that means, right? When people are suicidal, they don't want to die. They just want to die to the pain. They want to die to the version of themselves that doesn't feel worthy and valuable. And so after years and years and years of trying to search for value, I finally killed the version of myself that was causing all of the pain. That's how I finally committed suicide. I killed that version of me that thought she wasn't valuable, that thought she wasn't worthy. Thank you, thank you. And it's not that we want to die. Nobody becomes suicidal thinking about, I can't wait for death. I can't wait for rest. I can't wait for peace. I can't wait to get out of this pain. And so we see death as the ultimate escape from a life that is painful. And a lot of people say that suicide is stupid, but it's not. If life is hurting you, ending life pretty much resolves that, right? So it's a logical conversation that a person has with themselves. But what if I can help you understand? It's not that you need to die. That version of you needs to die. That version of you that has been traumatized and abused. That version of you that is a people pleaser, that has no boundaries. That version of you that is always trying to get somebody's validation. That version of you that needs attention. That version of you that is still that abused little child. What if that version of you could finally be put to rest and you could rise into greatness and be your greatest self and your highest self and your best self by loving yourself? Give the love to yourself that you're trying to get from everybody else. Realize and recognize that you are perfect, you are wonderful, you are beautiful. I worked so hard to fix myself and I had an epiphany. Girl, there ain't a damn thing wrong with you. There's nothing to fix. When I stopped trying to fix myself, I finally began to live. When I stopped trying to fix myself and I embodied my greatness and I realized that even my flaws are beautiful. My past is beautiful. I was raped when I was 2 years old. That used to be such a sad thing to me. It's not sad to me anymore. It's just something that happened to this physical body. But I am a spirit. I am energy. And nothing can happen to the eternal part of me. We are all spirit beings. Whatever happens in this physical world is not impacting the perfection of who you are as love, light, peace, and joy. You are a being of light and joy and energy. And that part of you is untouchable. It is perfect. And you have to tap into that part of you. That part of you cannot be touched. It cannot be broken. It cannot be damaged. I want you to hit your chest right now and say, I am perfect. Come on, say it with some energy. I am perfect. I am perfect. Say it again. I am perfect. I don't care who doesn't like you. You are perfect the way you are. Everything that has happened to you happened for you. Nothing has happened to you. Everything happened for you to make you the great, unique person that you are today. Every experience, everything that you deem painful, is only painful because you process it as pain. If you let go of the pain and hold on to the purpose and the lesson, then you are great because your spirit is untouched. And when I stopped trying to fix myself, I finally began to live. So that's how I finally committed suicide. I killed the version of me that was causing me pain, the version of me that needed people to validate me and approve of me. Baby, there are 8 billion people on this planet. If every last one of you in this room hates me, I'm going to go find somebody else. So thank you so much. I just want to encourage you guys. I'm really grateful for suicide prevention and I'm grateful for suicide intervention. But if we can understand that suicidal depression is really just about you trying to die to a version of yourself that is never satisfied. And that dissatisfaction comes from your perception of how other people perceive you. Grab that. That dissatisfaction comes from your perception of how other people perceive you. It's us trying to get other people's approval that makes us feel the way that we do. Nobody has to approve of you. When you were born and put on this earth, you were already qualified to be the best version of yourself. It wasn't a conference call. And when you stop needing that, then you really rise and you begin to live, okay? So I didn't know how long Suzette wanted me to talk, so I'm just going to stop because I can go.